Alright. Special features, just come along and have a chat with me. Some tea and maybe we might have a little fun. Special features, just talking about the movies and then something that might strike a chord with everyone. Strike a chord with everyone. Special features. Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of the Special Features podcast. My name is Maximilian. I'm a comedian, writer, a general lover of life, and I'll be doing this podcast with my father, the esteemed author, Walter Greatshell, over here. Why don't you introduce yourself, Walter?
Hey, I'm Max. I'm Max's dad, and I am an author, and I've written a number of books, particularly the Zombies series, Zombies spelled with an X. And I also wrote a nonfiction book about movies and entertainment that I called Special Features. So I think that's kind of the theme of this podcast.
Yeah, and that's why we've decided to name the podcast Special Features.
Excellent.
Also because we're special.
Yes, very special.
Very special. Special boys.
Yes.
Me and my daddy.
Yes.
My papa.
Yeah, we're
Papa. Papa.
My boy.
Papa.
All right.
Love you so much, Papa.
I love you too, son. So what shall we start chatting about on this very first premiere episode of our podcast here?
Well, I know there's been a lot of buzz recently around a new movie that just came out starring Nicolas Cage called Longlegs. I did go to see it. I know you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it.
So there's not a whole ton we can say about it. I will say personally that I did think it was like a really long, like special episode of like NCIS or something, like with the theme of hell.
Okay.
And religion involved, as a lot of modern horror movies I feel like kind of well, spoiler alert, I guess I should say spoilers, because that sort of gives away a bit of the movie, but too late now, right? You know? And honestly, by the time this comes out, if you haven't seen Longlegs already, you're probably not planning on going to see it. I feel like a lot of one thing we can jump off of this Longlegs is that a lot of modern horror movies lately that have come out, like all the Blumhouse stuff and everything, have been very religious focused.
Okay.
And I don't know how to feel about that. I feel like people have some kind of maybe because obviously like there's a lot of religious people in the United States.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's weird that so many horror movies get focused on the concept of like the devil or like, you know, the devil and God. I mean, is that, do you feel like that's weird?
I think it's weird, but I mean, it's a little of a bit cliche at this point. But having said that, I do think that some of my favorite horror movies from the past obviously have that theme. I mean, The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby, you know, or The Omen. You know, they all have a sort of religious theme, and I like it in those cases. I mean, I'm not particularly religious, but I do like that theme, and I think if it's well done, I have no problem with it. The problem is if it's just kind of done in a sort of generic, you know, paint the dots kind of way. And I mean, in this, you know, what you're talking about, I haven't seen this movie, Longlegs, but I would have hoped that at least it would have that little streak of weirdness that Nicolas Cage generally brings to the things he's in.
Oh yeah, his part is crazy and
Okay.
over the top, like Vampires Kiss crazy, which is another Nicolas Cage movie for those that don't know.
Yeah, I love
where
that
he
movie.
has like a really wacky over the top performance, and he definitely does in Longlegs. I know that like there's been a clip floating around where his character sings like this weird little song about like being allowed to stay on the property of the first people he visits, and like people are using it to, they're like comparing it with their cat online and stuff. So they're like, because the song is like, if you let me in now, it'll be nice, and if you don't let me in now, I'll have to come back once, not twice, but any time that I like. And so I do enjoy those elements,
right.
The unexpected Cageisms of the performance,
right?
Because those are kind of fun.
Well, it's funny because you, for some reason you're causing me to flashback on one of my favorite Nicolas Cage performances of some years ago. It was he was in the Werner Herzog directed sequel to Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah.
And I love his craziness in that movie. Especially the one of the end scenes when he's like snorting about a pound of cocaine and like imagining that this guy he just killed is like doing some kind of break dance on the floor.
Oh, absolutely.
I love all that.
Well, I mean, also that's Nicolas Cage combined with the weirdness of Werner Herzog.
Yeah, of course. Which is
so like it also has all kinds of funky little director elements.
Yeah.
Like the two alligators that are in love.
Exactly.
I would like to see the baby.
So, but what you're saying is this movie, I mean, even though it obviously did have some weird things, it was not at that level.
It was not at that level,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
No, it was, this movie was not nearly as entertaining to me as Bad Lieutenant. I don't want to say it's not going to be entertaining to anyone. I just think if you go in like, because they're advertising it like it's the scariest horror movie ever made.
Yeah.
Like the scariest horror movie in the last 10 years. I don't know why that turned into Nixon there. The scariest horror movie in the last 10 years.
Well, he was pretty scary.
True. But,
and in fact, I mentioned The Exorcist, and there was a famous radio play that was called The Nixorcist, where Richard Nixon got where he got possessed by the devil. And at one point, Henry Kissinger is trying to like talk to him at his bedside, and he vomits a stream of napalm on Henry Kissinger and sets him on fire. It was actually a really good radio play. It was like from 1970 or something.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was great.
I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
How many problems could we solve were we able to vomit a stream of napalm on each other?
Yeah.
I don't know. That might create more problems than it solves, actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I thought the movie Longlegs it wasn't scary per se. It was like kind of like a combination of a bunch of different like police procedural horror movies that have been made in the past few years. Like it had elements of Seven. It had elements of Zodiac.
Okay.
It had elements of like a lot of different movies that were all kind of mashed together.
Well, those are good movies at least.
But it wasn't as like scintillating as those. Like it was a little drier.
Okay.
And it was almost because like the good thing about those is like they're interesting and they're realistic. And obviously Zodiac's based on real events. So that stuff was like interesting. It was interesting to learn the details of that case.
Yeah.
Or like in the case of Seven, the crimes being committed were like
So
interesting
gruesome
because they were gruesome, you know? Or like in Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
Like because there were elements of that too.
Okay.
Like Silence of the Lambs is just a really well crafted story.
And it does seem, speaking of Silence of the Lambs, as great as that movie is, I do think there's been so many of these kind of rip-off, or I don't know, I wouldn't, maybe not rip-off, but homage kind of serial killer movies that kind of play on that whole Silence of the Lambs thing, so that it's gotten quite old at this point.
Oh, absolutely. And that was honestly, if I had to complain about Nicolas Cage's character in Longlegs, it was that his character kind of felt a little bit like Buffalo Bill riffy.
Okay.
It wasn't exactly the same. It was definitely, it was more like, I want to say like more androgynous, but I feel like Buffalo Bill is very androgynous.
That's about as androgynous as you
Yeah.
can.
So there's similarities, but Nicolas Cage is obviously trying to do something that's like, he's trying to create someone that's not himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think any of this movie's faults come in the performances or the way it was shot. I really just think the story was a little bit like overstretched out. It wasn't super well written. I don't know if this director really had the chops necessary to make this kind of a movie.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I don't know. I don't remember a whole lot about his work.
Yeah. Well, one also wonders, how much pressure there is on directors these days to kind of play along with the tropes that they think the audience is expecting. The producers think the audience is expecting. So they're trying to they don't really want to shock anybody. They don't want to overly alarm anybody. They want everybody to have the experience that they think they're paying for, which to me is just that's the formula for a boring movie. If you're not willing to take the audience places that, you don't already know that they have seen before.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah. Yeah, you want to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And this movie definitely is not super fresh. It's basically like a really long police procedural that has some that there's like confusion in the script. I feel like a good example is the main character in the movie. Great performance by the actress that was in the movie, but the main character, it's kind of alluded to at the beginning that she has like psychic powers.
Okay.
But then it's never really established what that's about. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the movie is like more complicated than I'm giving it credit for, and I need to like go back and look for different elements in it again. I just it kind of feels to me like the way I feel when I see something that has been like poorly fleshed out.
Yeah.
Is like made into a movie essentially. Like, you know what I mean?
No, you always know. I mean, at least I always know when I've seen something that I found surprising and refreshing. You know, it's a nice feeling. You always want that from a movie, and most often it's not that way. You know, more often than not, you come out of a movie thinking, it was all right.
Well,
or it's not. Or, you know, it might be worse than that. I don't know.
No, absolutely. Well, and also like, it's so difficult sometimes to find good movies nowadays, which is why, you know, you get sidetracked, you know, with a lot of like, that's why so many TV shows and so many like true crime series and things like that are coming out these days, you know?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's funny because we're talking about Nicolas Cage, and I just actually learned something new about Nicolas Cage, something I hadn't known before, and it was weird. It was because I was doing a crossword puzzle, and the question on the crossword puzzle was Nicolas Cage's son, and I, for one thing, didn't know that Nicolas Cage had a son, and I also don't know what the Nicolas Cage's son's name was, if that's what the answer was, which I assumed it was. But through doing the puzzle, I realized what the answer on the puzzle was, which I'm assuming must be true. This must be Nicolas Cage's son's name. And the answer was Kal-El.
Kal-El?
Kal-El, yeah.
Is that because he had the chance to do a Superman movie in the past?
That's all I can imagine.
And then like got thrown away?
Yeah, that he was originally intended to be in a Superman movie, and so he had a son around that time and named him Kal-El, which is very strange. I mean...
That is so freaking silly.
Yeah, but it's something I would certainly not put past Nicolas Cage. I mean, it sounds like it's right up, you know, in the Nicolas Cage ballpark.
I wanted to be Superman.
Yeah, right.
So my son, you must carry the flame forward.
Right.
Oh!
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was something I had not known about Nicolas Cage before, and you know, and then, you know, of course, you know, we having just recently seen that movie The Flash, where you actually see Nicolas Cage in the Superman costume briefly.
I know. Which he honestly, the digital Nicolas Cage in the Superman costume looks pretty cool.
Oh, he looked great. In fact, I would have loved to see a Superman movie with Nicolas Cage.
I like the long hair Superman look instead of like the plastic toy doll hair.
Yeah, well, you know
the black hair Superman.
Absolutely, it makes me think of what's his name, David Carradine, you know, from Kill Bill. I mean, imagine him playing Superman. You know, that's kind of what it would be. You know,
I'm thinking about like Kill Bill playing Superman.
Yeah,
it'd be like the Kill Bill.
Yeah, right.
Like, I hear, I don't even know.
But
I hear that's a very painful place to get shot.
Right.
But I don't. I cannot do a good impression of David Carradine.
It's a tough
but
voice.
I can't be shot by bullets.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that I think, wasn't Tarantino supposed to direct a Superman movie? I mean, I thought he was. I know Kevin Smith they were talking about doing it, and then I think they also said Tarantino.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I would love to see a Tarantino Superman movie.
I agree.
Especially if it was as gutsy as like...
There was a boy, a very strange enchanted boy.
I would love to see a Tarantino Superman movie, especially if it was as gutsy as... you know, something like Django Unchained, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what if it's just Superman freeing the slaves?
That would
it's
be
just
brutal.
Superman shows up on Earth in the slave-owning South.
Yeah, Superman karate chopping some guys' heads off and stuff.
Starting to sound like a Chappelle Show sketch. Superman, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Dave Chappelle never played Superman.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah, actually...
Could have been a comic Superman.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that one of my books is about this black guy who turns into like a mile-high giant, and I was thinking it'd be great if Dave Chappelle could play that part.
You mean Manny Lopes from Enormity?
Yeah.
My dad wrote a book about giants.
Yeah.
It's a science fiction book. It's actually really good. It should be turned into, like, in my opinion, it should be like a teleplay or something, but a teleplay. I don't even. What is a teleplay?
I don't know.
Like it should
script.
Yeah, it should be like a movie or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe an anime.
Yeah, anime would be good. Anything would be good at this point.
Yeah.
Make my book.
Not that I want to like compartmentalize everything into anime, you know.
No.
But I just feel like so much like manga and anime, like Japan is very quick about producing a lot of like really stories that would need a lot of money behind them to be made into movies or TV. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they pump out so much content. You know, there's some things that I'd love to see that if you wanted to get them done cheaply, that you could make them as like an anime.
No.
That being said,
totally
I have
agree.
no idea how much it costs to produce anime.
No.
But I only assume that it's cheap. I mean, maybe it's incredibly expensive now because of how popular it is.
I doubt it. They probably have all kinds of AI stuff that can make the animation a lot easier than it used to be. A lot faster.
I just want to see the lines of your book translated into Japanese. I see guys like military guys, like American military guys, like delivering Japanese lines.
Right.
I mean, Japan loves to play around with like the West, you know, ever since World War II, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the book takes place in Korea for the most part. So.
Well, no, I just mean like, you know, there's popular anime like My Hero Academia, which is about like Western superheroes.
Yeah.
And it kind of jokes around. It's serious. It's like a serious show, but it like jokes about the tropes of American superheroes and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But speaking of looking for stuff to watch, I know you were recently watching some clips of like about Jonestown.
Yeah, because I don't know, somehow I just started thinking about Jonestown because I remembered. I mean, in 1978 was when Jonestown happened. For anybody who's not aware, Jonestown was this cult of people who came from the Bay Area in San Francisco following this leader named Reverend Jim Jones. And he eventually moved his church all the way down to Guyana in South America. And they set up a little village in the middle of the jungle that was called Jonestown. And essentially, he ran the place with the usual cult leader mania.
Yeah, he was the drank the Kool-Aid guy.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, he had them all commit suicide by drinking Kool-Aid, but it's Kool-Aid laced with cyanide. But it actually it's a very interesting story just because it it causes you to imagine. I don't know, if you're in this situation like this, what would you do? And in the case of Jonestown, there was over 900 people there, and they all were pressured into drinking the Kool-Aid, literally. And if you listen, and there's
do they talk about what flavor of Kool-Aid it was?
I think it was cherry. I don't remember them mentioning it then, but I think back when it happened. Also, I don't think it was Kool-Aid brand. It was like, it was one of the the lower brands, the cheaper brands.
Can you imagine killing yourself off of off-brand Kool-Aid?
Yeah, off-brand Kool-Aid.
You can't even have real Kool-Aid as your final beverage.
Yeah.
Damn.
But the thing is that there was a few people who refused to drink it, and I think that those people they had to inject with cyanide. So, and some people were shot trying to escape because they had armed gunmen around the compound.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it's really horrible, and there was a lot of children there, and of course they were all murdered.
What about it's like movies to Jonestown?
Yeah,
that's what we should call this episode.
Yeah.
Movies to Jonestown, where everybody drinks the Kool-Aid
the thing
down.
is that if it makes you. There's a lot of video footage because at the very end, the thing that triggered this mass suicide was that a congressman from California named Leo Ryan had gotten a lot of complaints from family members of these people at Jonestown that they weren't allowed to communicate with their loved ones. Their loved ones weren't allowed to leave. People were being beaten and things like that. And so Leo Ryan and a bunch of journalists basically got together and got in an airplane with some of the family members, and they flew down to Guyana, and they went to Jonestown to look at it and see what was going on, to actually confront Jim Jones. And there's actually video footage because there was an NBC camera crew with them. So there's footage of all of this. And also Jim Jones was a crazy monologuist. And he would tape everything he said to the people of Jonestown. And he had like these enormous speeches every night that everyone had to sit in this big compound and listen to him talk for hours. And all this stuff is still on tape, and you can actually listen to it. And I've sort of been listening to some of it, and it's pretty depressing for the most part because the guy is clearly just a power-hungry monomaniac. I mean, the guy just wants to hear his own voice. He loves the sound of his own voice. And also, I can't help but imagine that to him, the idea of having all these people follow him in the first place was very good for his ego. And I think that on some level, the idea of getting all these people to commit suicide for him. Now, of course, he joined them in suicide. He also drank the Kool-Aid at the end. But the thing is that I think this was just an ultimate power trip. The idea that you could get all these people to not only come down to Guyana, away from their homes and families, and set up this compound where they have to do all this hard physical labor in the blazing sun every day, and where you get to control their every movement, and they can't leave because they're surrounded by the jungle. And then ultimately you'd say, now you're going to kill yourselves, and they have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like kind of the ultimate in like a power trip.
But was any of his monologuing like, because I know that like Charles Manson had a bunch of like notebooks that he wrote a bunch of like nuts junk in.
Yeah.
And I know that like, there's like serial killers that have like various, like a lot of these egomaniacs are also like crazy people who just have a bunch of like wild theories.
Well,
did Jim Jones have any of that, or was it more just like a regular power trip?
It was a regular power trip, but it was of course mixed up with religious craziness. I mean, he obviously thought God was on his side and everything.
Yeah.
But the weirdest thing about it is that you don't usually associate religious nuts with communism, but that was a big part of Jonestown. Like they wanted to go down there and create kind of this communist paradise.
Yeah.
And in fact, at the end, if you listen to his recordings, at the very end, the very last day before they all killed themselves, some of the people are objecting to committing suicide, and they're saying, well, why can't we just do an airlift to Russia? Because I guess he had been telling them that like Russia would want them, and that they would be welcomed in Russia and in the Soviet Union, and so some of these people, because they didn't want to die, were saying, well, why don't we just do that? And he was saying, well, now we can't because and this was after he had the congressman Leo Ryan and his whole entourage murdered, because as they were leaving with some of the people from Jonestown who also had expressed an interest in getting the hell out of there.
Yeah.
They were all going back to Leo Ryan's airplane, and they were going to fly out, and a truckload of Jones's goons basically drove onto the airstrip and shot them all. Yeah, exactly. So Jim Jones knew this as he's trying to get everybody to drink Kool-Aid. He says that to them. He says, "No, Jim
Leo
Jones
Ryan
is
is
dead,
dead.
so the Russians won't take us now."
Yeah.
And so we're kind of on our own, and they're coming. They're going to parachute in here, and they're going to murder all your children, and they're going to torture the old people, and so forth. It was just a bunch of crazy shit. Of course, the only person who would have gotten in any kind of trouble was Jones and his goons. Anyway, he persuaded them that their own imminent death and pain was on the way, and that the only escape was to kill themselves. But even at that, from the recording, you could tell it was not an easy night, as you would imagine.
Well, no, I thought it was easy.
Yeah.
I thought they were having a great time.
Right. A big party.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime there's like a cult or a sect, there's always some outward like notion that they're operating under.
Yeah.
And if theirs was communism, but like I remember there was a documentary called like Wild Wild Country, which was about like I don't know fully. I'm not fully aware of the details of what I haven't seen the documentary, but I believe it was related to like this group of I don't want to say hippies, but like people who had an idea that they were like going to create like a free community of peace, like kind of a commune.
Okay.
Near in like this area that was like near like a small town, and then of course it turned into a whole like thing because the leader of the group was like some kind of egomaniac, and it like all fell apart. But initially it started with the idea that they just wanted to live like a peaceful existence.
So Manson family sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But this was like a much larger group of people, and it turned into all kinds of weird stuff like biological warfare and stuff. But like. Yeah, there's always some underlying philosophy that just goes completely out the window.
Yeah.
With these kind of things. I mean, maybe not every time, but definitely the stuff we see examples of.
Oh, sure. And I think in many cases, anytime you have somebody with too much power, it usually goes bad, because human beings are not perfect. I mean, like I think about when I lived in Oregon, there was this guy, Sri Rajneesh, who had this big kind of yoga based community of people who like kind of worshipped him as a god.
Yeah.
And he did the same thing. He would he would have his followers give him money, and he ended up having millions of dollars that he spent on like giant Cadillacs or limos and airplanes and
prostitutes.
things like well, but he didn't need prostitutes because like all these
because he had the followers.
Yeah, he was
it is funny. It's not funny. It's terrible, but it does seem like a lot of the times when there's like a man at the head of these kind of organizations, and more often than not there is.
Yep.
He's kind of using it as like his personal harem.
Sure, and that was true with Jim Jones. He absolutely was, having sex with a lot of the women in the
and Manson too.
And Manson too, of course.
And probably, honestly, now not that I'm trying to get on their bad side, because I know that they still have a lot of power in our world right now. But I'm thinking about like the Church of Scientology. I wouldn't be shocked if there's stuff like that going on with them too.
No, absolutely. And we've heard about it in the Mormons and in the Christian church. I mean, the fact is that if you give somebody power, they're probably going to end up abusing it. It's just, you can't give too much power to people.
Yeah.
It's inherently going to be a problem eventually.
It's a shame because a lot of this stuff starts with such good intentions.
Yeah.
But I mean, what isn't there some saying that's like good intentions pave the road to hell or something?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's certainly true, with Jonestown, because I know that the church was a response to, I mean, most of the people who joined the church were people who were coming from these impoverished neighborhoods.
Yeah.
There was a lot of...
There's a desperation.
And people wanted to have a kind of a more idealistic view of life. And
it's like how when you're at the bus station, sometimes somebody will come up to you and be like, have you found Jesus? And it's like, because where do you see a lot of the most intense human desperation? It's at a bus station.
Yeah, sure. And I think that it's it's a shame, especially when I hear about something like Jim Jones, where obviously it makes socialism or communism look like terrible, just like the Soviet Union went bad for that reason too, and China went bad for that reason. I mean, but of course it's no different than any other human system. I mean, every system, if you give too much power to too few people, it's all going to go bad.
Well, that's what's so funny to me. Like, not that I'm trying to make any of this political right now, but like, what's so funny to me about like our current political climate, when people like I would say, like, both of us are Democrats, right?
Uh-huh.
We're liberals.
Sure.
Those
damn liberals.
I'm not going to talk too much into that. I think everybody has, should have a voice in our society.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes people will accuse liberals of being like communists, and I'm like, I don't really support communism.
Right.
Because communism never works.
Right.
Like, it falls apart. Like, I just there are elements of like, social freedoms that I want to see people have.
Right.
I want people to be able to take care of their health and stuff. Like, but I certainly don't want, like, just everything to be given equally to everyone, because eventually somebody's going to jump on that pile and like declare themselves supreme dictator of that.
Yeah. No, I've always thought, that if you really hate communism, you have to like a little socialism, because there's got to be a safety net. Society
and
should...
There's got to be a balance, you know?
Well, and also human civilization. I mean, what's the purpose of it? It's to make life better for human beings. It's not to make life fantastic for 5 people.
Yeah.
It should be pretty good for everybody.
Absolutely.
And, you can have some rich people in there, but they should also have to be following the rules. And, I mean...
but obviously we should be careful about getting too political.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, on a podcast that's primarily just about, like, I don't know, what'd you say, like human interest stories and movies, maybe.
Yeah. But, here's the thing. It all comes down...
That art is politics?
Yes. No. No, I just think that, it's important that everybody know that we're nice guys.
We are nice guys.
We love human beings.
Yeah, live and let live.
Exactly.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Exactly.
I have friends all across the spectrums of politics and religion. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just saying, like, we're just trying to talk about the world.
Right. We just, we don't like crazy cults, and we discourage them whenever we can.
Yes, exactly.
But
our definition of crazy cults, that will remain secret.
That's right.
To us. By the way, I love how I'm talking with hand gestures right now, like anyone is going to see any of this.
Yeah. You're being very demonstrative with your hands.
Yeah. Like I just made a physical joke just now that no one's ever going to see. But at some point we might record a film version of this podcast though, like a video version.
Yeah.
And put it on YouTube or something.
Do a vlog, as the kids say.
We got to build a set if we do that.
Nice.
We got to have like
have some movie posters.
You know, some of those, what are those, like, those glass blocks that look like kind of wavy, like water, that, like, stack together?
Yeah, those
See those on the
bricks.
sides of houses sometimes?
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll have a glass bricks.
That's right.
Hans Bricks. Anyway.
I got that reference.
Yeah?
That was a Die Hard reference. Hans.
Yes.
Hans Blix, isn't that the name of the bad guy in Die Hard?
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah. But it's also kind of a reference to the way that that Matt Stone and Trey Parker pronounced Hans Bricks as Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il. No, as Kim Jong-il in Team America World Police.
Yeah, I gotcha. So
Which, by the way, another fantastic movie. I actually do like that movie. I don't like it as much as the South Park movie, though.
Yeah.
But that's because the South Park movie is like a full-scale musical that had like a bunch of different hands working on it. It's like a really cool... I really like that movie.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I like the musical element. I mean, obviously, World Police also had some musical numbers, but they weren't, you know, as I don't know, Broadway-esque as the other one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I like... honestly, this kind of comes full circle because we were talking about horror movies that discuss the devil.
Yeah.
And the South Park movie, a big part of the South Park movie is the devil.
That's true. Yeah.
And his relationship with Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, that's right.
Meet Saddam Hussein, my new partner in evil.
Move over, Satan. You're hogging all the fun.
Yeah, that's funny because I not too long ago I was watching The Big Lebowski, and there's a Saddam Hussein mention in that too, and somebody was telling me that the theme of that movie is anal sex.
The theme of
The Big Lebowski.
Of The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, and because let me think about what their
I
reasoning.
mean, there's a lot of bowling.
Yeah, well, the bowling
But I
alley
feel
has
like-
those little stars on the outside, which look like anuses, right? Apparently, you know.
Yeah.
And also, Saddam is like Sodom, you know, like sodomy, you know, and
I could see that.
and also there's a scene where Lebowski is examined by the doctor of what's her name, Julianne Moore. Her doctor in the movie examines Lebowski, Jeff Bridges, and after you don't see him be examined, but afterwards you see him in his car, and he looks very happy, and he's like whistling, and then later, you realize that a sample of his his sperm was taken, and it turns out that it was used to impregnate Julianne Moore. And when Lebowski hears this, when he discovers that this was the case, you see this sudden awareness on his face, which, because something obviously happened between him and that doctor that he thought was just for fun or something, but it turned out to be for a reason, you know, that his seed was being stolen to impregnate Julianne Moore. But anyway, I probably should not go on with this because it's getting a little bit... I've already gone too far, let me put it that way. But
also, we don't want to describe the plot of the whole movie.
Yeah, no. But that's a very small part of the plot. But I did think that was kind of a funny thing. And I now forget why this topic came into my head.
You were saying that The Big Lebowski is about anal sex.
Yeah. But why did I... What was the connection to whatever we were saying before that?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. We were talking about Jonestown.
Yeah.
And then The Big Lebowski and anal sex.
Yeah, but there was some connecting thing there that I'm a little
Two peas
hazy
in a
on.
pod.
Speaking
I don't
of
know.
which,
I do like one of my favorite parts of The Big Lebowski, and a part that is not that big of the movie. I really like Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, he's
and
great.
I like how uncomfortable he is in like, you know, not in the role. He does great in the role, but like his character
is
so
so
uncomfortable with everything.
Yeah,
He's just like, Oh yes, yes. Let's. No, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, he's great. I miss him.
I've been thinking about him a lot recently because I've been really wanting to watch Magnolia with my fiance.
Yeah.
Because I really love Magnolia and she's never seen it.
Yeah.
Speaking to everyone out there, like, amazing movie.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Magnolia, it's definitely got some shocking stuff in it. So, like, trigger warning, but, like, it is a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's directed by, what's his name? Paul Thomas Anderson.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
And you know, obviously, you know, if anybody has seen, you know, his other movies like There Will Be Blood or what else?
I mean, There Will Be Blood, I feel like, is a big enough selling point as it is.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
like a very good movie.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I feel like that's a movie that a lot more people are familiar with too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, There Will Be Blood, absolutely killer Daniel Day-Lewis performance.
Yeah.
Magnolia, killer multiple actors performance. I mean, great Philip
yeah.
Seymour Hoffman, but also great, like, you know, John C. Reilly, weirdly. Mm-hmm. Great Tom Cruise. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of great performances.
Yeah, and the last performance of oh my God, I'm not going to be able to remember the actor's name, but he plays Tom Cruise's father in Magnolia, and
Yeah, the dying guy.
yeah, he also did a great job playing Howard Hughes in this older movie called Melvin and Howard.
That's that actor?
Yeah, that's that actor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, he's really good. I always look forward to any movie by Paul Thomas Anderson because he's one of those directors. Oh, he also did The Master.
Yeah.
And
the abbreviation of his name is PTA.
that's right.
And who doesn't love the PTA?
The PTA, which does everything so well.
Yes, absolutely.
He also did Phantom Thread, by the way.
Phantom Thread.
Yeah.
A very underrated movie that I absolutely love.
Yeah, you know, I've actually come around to your way of thinking because when I first saw that movie, I wasn't sure if I liked it or not, but then you saw it and you really liked it, and it caused me to see it again, and I agreed with you, and I've seen it a number of times since then, and I think it's brilliant.
I'll tell you, it's definitely one of those movies where, like, the title does not give you any idea what the movie is going to be about. It almost it sounds like an anti-hero movie or something.
Yeah.
It's like the Phantom Thread.
Yeah.
He's a
you're right.
phantom, and he has threads.
Yeah.
He's going to be threading you this Christmas.
Right.
Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread coming to theaters this October.
Coming to theaters. Coming to theaters in Mexico near you.
That's right.
The Phantom Thread. Yeah, the Phantom Thread is great. Daniel Day-Lewis has not really been in any bad movies.
No.
I know it's not the best one, but I'm a big fan of Gangs of New York. As far as, like, I know that's not his best movie, but, like, he is so good in that movie.
Yeah, he's great.
Like, I shouldn't say it's not his best because he's what makes that movie.
Yeah.
Without him, that movie would be nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, not to crap on the other actors in that movie. They all did a great job, but he's like really, really good in that movie.
Yeah.
As the butcher.
It's funny because when I saw that movie again, I had mixed feelings about it because I was such a fan of Martin Scorsese, and that movie was so different than most of Scorsese's other movies. It was just so far outside of his wheelhouse, and also I thought it was a little scattershot. Like there was so many different stories happening in that.
It's far from a perfect movie.
But I still think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. And also, like, you know, who are we? Who are we to judge?
Yes.
Who are we?
We're in.
We haven't made a movie yet.
Right. It's
But
coming.
maybe we will.
Just wait and see.
You know.
Stay tuned.
Or if I ever get a stand-up special, I guess you could theoretically call that a movie.
That's true.
I'm a stand-up comedian, if nobody out there knows, which I'm sure you don't because I'm not that popular yet. I'm mostly just the Rhode Island, Boston area, but I think I'm doing okay.
He's
I think
doing
my
great.
comedy's kind of good.
I'm very proud of my boy and his comedy.
My boy.
My boy.
My boy. This is some classic father-son love.
This is.
Oh, that sounds weird. I don't want to say that.
Yeah. No,
Father-son love.
not going that
I do
direction.
feel like there's a lot of, like, positive father content online, and I think it's because there's a lot of, like, especially people who go into the arts, at least, like, a lot of the guys I've seen who go into the arts have, like, issues with their fathers.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of a lot of stuff online where people are trying to not really heal it, but be kind of approach it therapeutically.
Yeah.
Like there's people online who pretend to be like everyone's dad,
Yeah.
or there's there's a family of comedians called the McFarlanes that does sketch videos online where it's like this dad and his sons.
Huh.
And that's so I feel like the whole father-son thing is kind of a hot topic.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's charming.
Yeah. I mean, I myself never knew my own father.
Man,
so...
boy, love. I
Yeah.
still
Let's
shouldn't
not
say
go
that.
there.
You're
Should
getting
not
too-
say that. Got to be careful.
Yeah, this is you get in a weird direction.
No. But yeah, fun. People want to have that parental figure in their life, and a lot of people, they don't have fathers, or
Yeah.
they have a father who was abusive or something.
Yeah, it's funny. I never had a father, and I never wanted a father. I mean, I never looked at other kids with their dads and thought, I wish I had a dad.
You never looked for male approval.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
feel like
not really.
you did in the arts, though.
To the extent that I looked at mythical, I looked at people I didn't know. Like when I was a kid, I loved those Jacques Cousteau specials.
Yeah.
And I always thought of Jacques Cousteau as being the kind of father.
Jacques Cousteau is your surrogate father.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and so to that extent, yeah. But I never actually met Jacques Cousteau. I mean, for all I know, the guy was an asshole or something. I don't know.
Honestly, my first experience with Jacques Cousteau was SpongeBob. I feel like I didn't know anything about Jacques Cousteau. I just heard the voice in SpongeBob, the narrator in SpongeBob.
Okay.
Like, here on Bikini Bottom, we are all looking at the sponge and his friends, the starfish. I didn't know that was a reference to Jacques Cousteau
Okay.
when I was growing up.
Right.
And now I do, and it's like, oh man, SpongeBob taught me about Jacques Cousteau.
That's pretty funny. I never really watched SpongeBob, so I was not really aware of that reference.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The narrator in SpongeBob is a parody of Jacques Cousteau.
Wow. Well, the only Jacques Cousteau reference that I ever fully understood was in the Wes Anderson movie Life Aquatic, which was a kind of a takeoff on Jacques Cousteau and the Calypso.
Yeah, and that's a great parody of Jacques Cousteau as well.
Yeah, and Bill Murray playing Jacques Cousteau is such a great.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a really funny idea,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, honestly, I feel like some of those, especially SpongeBob early days, there's so much.
Wait a minute, did I just say Wes Anderson? Is that his name?
Wes who?
The guy who directed Life Aquatic.
Yeah, Wes Anderson.
That's really weird because we were just talking about Paul Thomas Anderson.
And now it's
there's
Wes Anderson.
There's no relation between Paul Thomas Anderson
they
and
just
Wes.
have similar names.
Okay, I was just confused for a minute because I thought, am I mixing up two guys? No.
Am I mixing up Wes and Tom?
Wes and
Tom
Paul
and
Thomas? Yes.
Thomas, Paul Thomas Wes Anderson?
Yes, exactly.
PTWA?
So the theme of this show is Andersons, I guess.
Andersons?
Yes. And since
movies and drinking the Kool-Aid and Wes Anderson.
Yeah, and because we're talking about weird camps where people are dying,
let's not get into camps now.
Well, I was thinking about Andersonville, the famous Confederate prison, where everybody was dying of starvation and disease.
Fun.
Yeah.
Let's just keep the topics as grim as possible.
Yes, that's
as many camps where people died as we can think of.
Right.
Just list them off one at one. Several of those are going to be in Poland and Germany.
Yes, of course.
Unfortunately, so let's not get into that.
Those are the more better known ones. We're talking about the lesser known ones.
The lesser known death camps of history.
Yes, Jonestown, Andersonville.
That's what this podcast should. We'll just focus on the lesser known death camps in all time, in all human history. Good Lord.
Yeah, I think that may be the end of our observations. Because I don't know where we can go from there.
No, exactly. I absolutely agree. I don't think there are many places we could go. I was going to start talking about how Clancy Brown is in SpongeBob and also in a movie I love, Highlander.
Ah, yes. I do love Clancy
which is
Brown.
As far you can get away from death camps as possible. Unless Clancy Brown is running a death camp that I don't know about, which I don't think so.
Well, but it's funny because I was just watching the movie Bad Boys with where anyway Clancy Brown. It takes place in a basically a juvenile detention facility, and Clancy Brown plays a teenage hooligan, and that's kind of a death camp in its own way.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie. And honestly, the only time I've ever heard reference to the title Bad Boys was Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know about that movie is because of Hot Fuzz. Because in Hot Fuzz, they talk about Bad Boys 2.
Well,
and it's kind of like treated like a joke.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, Hot Fuzz actually made me kind of glad to know about I'm not a fan of Bad Boys 2, but I like it just because it's a reference from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah. No, but there's an older movie called Bad Boys where Clancy Brown is like a awful bully in a juvenile detention center.
Yes.
Well, I hate to say bully though, because he's like so much worse than that.
Yeah.
He's like a monster.
Yeah, he's like a mean jerk.
He like assaults people and like it's like terrible.
He's a bad boy.
But yeah, he plays villains a lot.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's what happens when you like look like Clancy Brown does.
Yeah.
Because I get that, because I feel like I kind of have some of those same qualities. Like I'm a little more boyish looking.
Yeah.
But I'm like a big guy with like a big, like, Neanderthal throwback head.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel like Clancy Brown is kind of like that too. Not to insult him, like he's a fine looking man. I just mean like he has a villain aesthetic.
Sure. Well, he's again, to talk about death camps, he's of course the ultimate prison guard in Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
And he turns that into a death camp, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, the Shawshank Redemption. He's good in that. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like SpongeBob, Highlander.
SpongeBob and the Shawshank Redemption.
SpongeBob. I feel like that's a reference, though, that would have been apropos for old SpongeBob.
Yeah,
because they did reference dark stuff in that show at the beginning.
No, they did. In fact, the only scene of SpongeBob that I ever really remember seeing was the Nosferatu scene.
Nosferatu.
Right, I love that.
Yeah.
That was good.
No, but yeah, Clancy Brown, he's great as the Kurgan in Highlander. Highlander is not one of those movies that's like we're going to talk about a lot of movies on this podcast, but like that's not one of those like classic good movies. It's definitely a very cheesy 80s movie, but it's like the king of cheesy 80s movies.
It is, and in fact I've come to love that movie in the same way that I've come to love Neil Diamond, because at the time that Highlander came out, and the time that Neil Diamond was actually recording music, I didn't like him, at all. In fact, I hated both of those things, but now with the hindsight and
weirdly
nostalgia,
specific.
Well, I mean, to me, Highlander is kind of the Neil Diamond of movies.
It's like I hated Highlander and Neil Diamond, and now
I love them.
Both. I can't get enough.
That's right. They both are on my wanna see
binge
list. Wanna
binge list.
Yes, my guilty.
I just love all the weird missteps in Highlander, because I know like it came out in a time when a lot of movies where like Arnold Schwarzenegger was really famous, so they were trying to make movies with like a foreign weird strongman as like the lead, and they pick like this French guy to play like a Scottish man.
I think he's Belgian, actually.
Is he Belgian?
Yeah.
Okay, well he's weird. He's miscast for like a Highlander.
Yeah,
and then they have Sean Connery in the movie. Hanging out with him, playing like a Spanish Egyptian guy.
Right. Yeah, Sean Connery.
As
a Spanish
Egyptian guy, playing alongside a guy pretending to be Scottish, who's Belgian.
Yeah, right.
What happened?
I know.
What happened
it's very
there?
Strange. Well, but that actor, I can't even remember what his name is, the Belgian guy. He had the great look. And that's what they were looking for. And also, I think that Jean-Claude Van Damme was having some success.
Yes.
And here's a guy who was
Bloodsport.
Yeah, exactly. And here's a guy who was actually better looking, than Jean-Claude Van Damme. So they thought, well, Van Damme can do it. This guy can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at least how I imagine it went.
Well, anyway, the movie is it's so kooky and fun and dumb in so many ways.
Yeah.
And that's really what's enjoyable watching. I mean, you also kind of get caught up in the story. Like, as silly as the story is with the people who are playing it.
Absolutely.
Like, it's still fun. There's so many lines in that movie that are just like there at one point he's being interrogated in a police station and a cop accuses him of being gay and he uses like an inappropriate word because it's like the 80s,
Yeah.
and the guy says to him like, yeah, why, you cruising for some ass? You know,
Right.
like it's just it's
Yeah.
such a ridiculous,
Yeah.
just all these little weird
It's just the epitome
European asides.
The epitome of a Scottish brogue.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you cruising for some ass?
Right.
I am Scottish. I like haggis. It is made with meat and barley. It's like so perfect.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown is the best actor in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Not because he's necessarily the best actor, but just because his part is like a part that makes sense for who he is.
Sure. I'll tell you though, it's a little goofy that Clancy Brown was not given the lead, because he would have actually been better in the lead of that movie. But then we
Anyone would have been better in the lead of that movie.
Yeah, but then you would have lost his
Sean
villain.
Connery would have been better as the lead in that movie.
You're right. Yeah.
Or somebody Scottish, you know what I mean? Like anybody Scottish
Yeah.
or Irish or anybody who could do a Scottish accent even remotely.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But
Liam Neeson.
But then again, you know, what am I saying? Because the movie wouldn't be the wonderful disaster that it is
No.
if it had been cast better.
Of course.
If it had been cast better, it might have just been some sort of like boring sci-fi thing from the time.
Yeah.
And also Queen did the music for that movie, which is fantastic.
Of course, that helps. Of course, just like it did with Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I feel like that movie and Flash Gordon hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Like, I like Highlander better than Flash Gordon, but I feel like if you like one of those movies, you're going to like both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both hokey in exactly the same way. Hokey and spectacular.
Both hokey pokey.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
Now there's a movie with Halloween coming on.
Oh, God.
I know.
Yeah.
Get excited.
I know. I actually...
I like Hocus Pocus.
I know you do. And I know that, you know, your mother does and everything.
I know it's silly.
No, I have no problem with Hocus Pocus. I did rather not like the sequel to Hocus Pocus.
Well, that was terrible.
Yeah, although it was kind of cool because they were filming it in Providence. And,
Yeah, we did see
actually
some of the filming,
see some of the filming, which was fun.
Yeah, my fiance's brother is visible in the movie.
That's cool.
You see, like, the back of his head going into a Walgreens. Because that whole movie was basically just an ad for Walgreens.
Yeah, right.
But, I don't know. The reason I like Hocus Pocus is I can't think of, like, another movie that I like Bette Midler in.
Yeah.
Like, except, I mean, Beaches is okay.
Yeah.
But, like, it's hard to, like, you know, because I feel like wasn't a lot of her career, like, on the stage?
She was a musician. Although there's a couple of movies that I really like her in. I like her in Ruthless. She was in a movie called Ruthless People that I thought was really good.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I know what Ruthless People is.
Yeah, and she was also in a movie with the woman from Cheers, Shelley. Was her
Not Duvall.
No.
Because she just died recently.
Yeah, no, a different Shelley. Anyway, she was in Cheers, and the two of them were in this movie called Outrageous Fortune. That was pretty good, I thought.
I don't know why. For some reason, in my head just popped like Outrageous Foreskin. I know that's a terrible porn title, but Outrageous Fortune. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Outrageous...
She also had that bit part in Seinfeld.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, although I haven't thought about this in years, but I think Outrageous Fortune might have been directed by the same guy who did that movie with... oh my God. It had De Niro as a bounty hunter, and he was trying to...
Oh, De Niro. For some reason, I was thinking DeVito.
No.
I was like, Danny DeVito as a bounty hunter sounds amazing.
No.
But De Niro, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, De Niro... Actually, Danny DeVito was in Ruthless People.
No, I know.
Yeah. No, De Niro was... It was... oh my God. I'm stumped here.
You're screwing this up, man.
I'm screwing it up.
You're screwing up the podcast.
I know, just a lot of dead air. That's what people want to listen to. Lots of dead air.
Well, I was feeling a little gassy. We could fill it with farts.
let's
people like comedy, like fart comedy, right?
Yes, but see, they'll be safe from the full effect.
It's not my fault, okay? I had Taco Bell for breakfast.
Don't do that.
I'm a grown man, Dad.
You'll always be my little boy. Anyway, so yeah, Outrageous Fortune. That's Bette Midler and Shelley. What the hell is her name?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What about Outrageous Fortune?
I don't really remember it. It's about two women who are on some kind of road trip and having an adventure of some sort.
Okay.
I forget what the plot is. It wasn't that great, but I thought Bette Midler was pretty good, and she was also in Beaches, which a lot of people really
Yeah,
like.
I just mentioned Beaches.
Did you mention Beaches?
Yeah, Beaches.
Okay.
Beaches is okay. I feel like though, if you like, Beaches is like, it's one of those like sad, beloved character dies movies,
Yeah.
and I feel like if you're gonna watch that, you might as well watch what's that other one about them? There's one about like this mother who dies and leaves her.
Oh yeah. Terms of Endearment.
Terms of Endearment.
Yeah, that's a much better movie.
Yeah,
in
that's
fact, if nobody's
as far as like a tragic death movie, that's a better one.
Yeah, in fact, I would highly recommend Terms of Endearment to anybody. I think it's directed by James L. Brooks. It's a really, really good movie.
James Hell Brooks.
James Hell Brooks. Yes,
as he's featured in the Simpsons credits.
Yeah, he's one of the producers of The Simpsons. He also made broadcast
well, in the
news
Halloween specials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Broadcast news. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I isn't Terms of Endearment. Isn't that that actress from Requiem for a Dream? Isn't she in that? No, I'm mixing her up with somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the lady who was in Labyrinth.
Yeah.
What is her name? Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly, yeah.
Jennifer Connelly, yeah. That's definitely not who's in Terms of Endearment.
No.
But she's great too.
Yeah.
Gotta love Jennifer Connelly, right?
Yeah, I like Jennifer
She's in a lot of cheesy 80s movies and stuff. So
yeah.
There you go.
Oh, I just remembered the name of the movie I was trying to think of that was directed by the same person who did Outrageous Fortune. It was Midnight Run.
Midnight Run is good?
Yeah. Have you not seen Midnight Run?
No, I've seen Midnight Run.
Okay, yeah. Don't you think that's good? I think it's a pretty good
Yeah,
movie.
it is. It's like a serious planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, exactly. Still has a lot of funny stuff in it, though. It's like
but it's not as funny as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. John Candy,
that's true.
Huh?
That's very, very true.
I'm sorry. I know you don't give. I know you don't care about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
It's all right.
I kind of like that movie.
I don't hate it.
There's a lot of nostalgia movies out there that I feel like I like that maybe you're not as big a fan of.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's sort of what balances us out well. It's like I can come in with some of the popular picks that maybe aren't totally your bag.
Well, that's true.
And you can you're there for more like I don't want to say like analytical criticism.
The more arty,
like advanced films.
Films
that involve mass death and
right.
and like just horrible things happening in them.
No, I think I like mainstream films as long as they're good. I mean, I've always been a fan of movies, and obviously
but we do like some very dark movies.
We do, absolutely. Well, I mean, because Shelley Duvall just died. Speaking of which, I'm still trying to
Are
think.
you going to say The Shining is a dark movie? Because it's not.
Well, no.
I mean,
no.
kind of.
Shining's kind of a comedy in a way, I think. But,
The Shining's a comedy?
Well, to me, it's all Kubrick movies are comedies.
Okay,
They're
all right,
all
fair enough.
funny.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
But no, Shelley Duvall. Obviously, I always loved her because she was in that Robert Altman movie, Three Women.
Yeah,
and I really like that movie. And
well, we also talked about that children's show that she hosted.
Yeah, right.
That I had
Fairy Tale Theater or whatever.
That I was a fan of.
Yeah.
That actually had way more seasons than I thought it did. Apparently, it had like 7 or 8 seasons or something.
Oh, really?
And I only ever saw like one episode of it.
Yeah.
But the one episode of it that I saw that I had on like VHS, I watched like 50 times.
Wow.
She
had an impact on you.
No, I love Shelley Duvall. Very classic look, classic style.
Yeah.
Just overall a cool lady.
Yeah, she was very interesting.
A really special lady.
Special lady. You're a special lady.
Is that a song?
Yeah, living in a world of make-believe. Yeah, it's Angie Baby. It's Rolling Stones. Angie Baby. I was trying to do I didn't realize I was kind of trying to do a Mick Jagger there. Angie Baby, you're a special lady. Living in a world of make-believe. Oh, man. Sorry.
That was actually pretty good.
I was about to apologize.
No, that was that sounded pretty good. I'm surprised. You don't give yourself enough credit. You're such a good singer, Dad. Dad, let's just spend this whole podcast talking about how great we think each other are.
Yeah, son, it's you. You're the singer. You're the singer. You're the singer of the family.
You're the writer. So, this whole thing can just be like a solipsistic jerk-off session.
Exactly. Once again, we're going too far.
Too far.
Too far.
All right. Well, seems like a good place to wrap up for this episode.
All right.
Thank everyone for joining us.
Yes, anybody who has listened up to this point, I could kiss you.
No, I was giving you an order. Thank everyone for
Thank
everyone for joining us, Dad.
Thank you all.
No, we're very thankful that you could join us for the first episode of the Special Features podcast.
That's right. We will get
forward,
better.
We'll be talking about movies, social issues, relationships, beer.
That's right.
I don't know. What maybe not beer.
No.
I want this to be family friendly.
Yeah. How about food? We could talk about food. We like food.
And bread and circuses.
Yes, bread and circuses. That's our philosophy.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I can't stop it. It won't stop recording. Ah!